Today I'm going to tell you the story of the Pied Piper. The interesting part of this story is part of it is true, and much of it is a legend. Once upon a time, a long time ago, the mayor of the village sat with his head on his desk going like this. And he was mumbling to himself. He was saying, "Rats, rats, rats, rats." You see, there were rats and mice everywhere in his town. There were mice and rats everywhere you looked. They had tried everything to try to get rid of them. They had tried dogs, they tried cats, they tried poison, they tried traps, they tried everything, but the town was overrun with rats. And they couldn't get rid of them. And so there he sat, wondering what he was going to do next. They used up all the money they had, and still they had rats. A couple ran across his desk, a couple ran across the floor. And he said, "What are we going to do?" But if he had been looking, and looking out the window over there, what he would have seen is a man walking into town. Now this man was, well, how shall I describe him? He had a great big pack on his back, and he was tall, he was skinny, his fingers looked like carrots. He was a strange looking, but the strangest thing about him was that his clothes were weird. One of his pant legs was red, one was blue. One of his shirt sleeves was yellow and the other was green. He had a long hat with a great big feather on it that come down like that. Why, he was a strange looking man. Now he marched clear into town. The mayor's office was up here and he was down in the city square. And he stopped right in the middle. He threw back his cape and he undid the big thing that he was carrying. And he took it off his back and laid it down. And it turned out it was a cage, a great big cage. And it had, at the top layer, it had several rats. The bottom layer, it had mice. And the man threw his cape down. He took that big cage down and the animals were scurrying around. And then he looked all around. He said, ladies and gentlemen, have you ever seen rats dance? Have you ever seen mice march? Watch." And then he did something extraordinary. He pulled out his pipe and put it to his lips, and he began to play. And as he played a tune, the rats in the top layer formed in pairs, and they started dancing. And they were dancing all around the cage just as if they were on television. Round and around and around they went. And by this time people were starting to come in, and they said, "Ooh, he can make rats dance." And he stopped playing. Then all of a sudden he played a slightly different tune. And that tune was just a little different, and yet the people looked down and they could see those little mice forming up like soldiers, big long rows, and they were marching around the cage, just as if somebody were playing a drum. And around they went. Well, by this time, people from the whole town started gathering. And as they gathered around, they were oohing and awing. And by this time, the mayor of the village said, "What's all that going on in my town?" And so he got up from his desk, brushed aside a few rats, and he started down to where that was happening. And they saw him coming, and they said, "Make way for the mayor, make way for the mayor." He was a very important man. And the mayor went right up to the man, and they said, "What are you doing here? What are you doing in my town?" And the man looked at him with soft eyes. And he said, "I've heard you had a problem with rats and mice. I'm here to get rid of them. For a price. You must pay me." How much do you want? Well, 50 guilders will do. 50 guilders, you'll get rid of all the rats and mice? Well, certainly. But you have to get rid of every last one. All right, said the mayor. Shake on it. So they shook. It's a deal. And with that, the mayor turned and he said, well, what's your name? And he said, well, because of my strange clothes, that's called Pied, and I play my pipe, you can call me the Pied Piper. Well, Mr. Pied Piper, do your best, and I will be glad to pay you. And with that, the Pied Piper went out just a few steps away, and he put the pipe to his lips, and he began to play. He played away, and a strange thing happened. There was a scrabbling, scratching, scurrying sound, and from every place in the whole town came rats and mice. They started scurrying over there, and pretty soon, if you looked out, you saw a great big sea of rats and mice. There were big ones and small ones, dumb ones and smart ones, black ones and white ones, all kinds of rats. And then they started to move in a circle, and it was just like a great big sea of rats. Round and around and around they went. Then all of a sudden, the piper stopped. He shifted his weight a little, and he turned, and he started walking towards the river, which was just outside town. And there he was, playing away, and the rats formed a column behind him, and as he walked, they all followed him. It was just like a long, long, long string of rats and mice. And towards the river they went. What's he going to do, the people said. Well, he got to the river and he stopped. He turned around and he looked here and there. And then he stepped into the river and waded all the way out till he was past his waist, still playing away, and the rats all followed him. Plop, 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 into the river they went. And finally, all of them were gone, swept down the river. And there he was. Well, he turned out, he stepped back to shore and shook himself off. Where's the mayor live? And they said, well, that's his house up on the hill there. Well, I'll go collect my money now. Let's see, 50 guilders, that's what we said. And so he marched back, and as he was walking, people turned to him, and as they walked by, and they said, there he is. He's the man that got rid of all the rats. Oh, what a great thing that is. And with that, he walked right up to the mayor's house. Now the mayor looked out the window and saw him coming. And he said, oh, he's done it. And I was to pay him 50 guilders, and we don't have 50 guilders in the treasury. What are we going to do? He thought for a moment, and he said, well, he looks kind of stupid. I think I'll just cheat him a little bit. And so with that, the Pied Piper came in, and he said, I'm here to collect my money. Good, good, said the mayor. Here's your 5 guilders. The piper stopped, and he said, no, it was more than 5. It was 50 guilders. I don't remember that, said the mayor. Now, if you don't want 5 guilders, you can just be off with you. I'm not going to fool with you. Go away. Now, if you've watched, and had you been there in the corner, you would have seen the piper. His eyes darkened, narrowed, his lips got very tight, and he said, are you breaking your promise? No promise at all, just be off with you. The piper turned, and he started walking towards the door, and he stopped, and he whirled around, and he pointed to the mayor, and he said, I will be back Sunday. So what? Said the mayor. Be off with you. Well, he turned and he left. Well, by this time, the people were rejoicing. The rats and the mice were gone. The place was clean. It was wondrous. Well, Friday came, and Saturday, and Sunday morning, if you had been there, you would have seen a very strange sight. You would have seen the piper go up to that same square, look all around, and he had a sad, sad look on his face. And he looked the whole town over. He reached down and he put that great big pack on his back, the one with the rice and the mice and the rats. And then he took the pipe from his lips, from under his cloak, and he started to play. And he played a different kind of a tune this time. It was different. And a stranger thing even happened, because children, mostly under the age of 12, everywhere they were, they stood up and they started listening to the music. And then they started walking towards the music. Now the piper was there playing away, pack was on his back, and as he was playing away, the children came and they started walking around him. Every child in town under the age of 12 that could walk. They were going around like this, around and around. And then he stopped. And he wheeled. And he turned to the river. And he started to walk towards the river, playing away. And all the children were following him. They were singing, dancing, laughing, having a wonderful time. But they just were blindly following him. And finally, when they got close to the river, somebody shouted, "He's going to drown the children just like the rats. Oh no, oh no." And they cried out, but they were frozen in their spots. They couldn't go after their children. And they watched as the piper went right to the river's edge. And then he stopped. And then he started walking up the river with all the children following. And in this part of the town was a great big hill, and back where the river flows by it, he started leading all of those children up, halfway up the mountain, and then a strange thing happened, because the whole side of the mountain just opened up. And the piper was playing away, and he walked into the cave, and all the children followed. And when the last child, it seemed, had walked through, the whole thing closed up. Then somebody in town broke the spell and they said, they're in that cave, let's go rescue them. And the whole town rushed up on that hill. And they searched, and they searched, and they couldn't find the entrance to that cave. And they were just about ready to come back when all of a sudden they heard a crying noise. And they looked, and there was a little boy on crutches behind a rock. And they said, "What happened?" And all the little boy could say was, "You should have seen what was in that cave. It was beautiful. And before I could get through, I couldn't walk as fast as the others, and it closed up." Well, they searched for another day and a half, and they still didn't find the entrance. The children, every child under the age of 12 in that village had disappeared. They were gone. Well, if you go to that town this very day, they have a celebration. They have a festival where they reenact this as a skit. And always, always they end the skit with the same way. It goes kind of like this. Remember, when the piper asks you to pay, make sure you pay the piper what he is due. And that's the end of the story. Now, do you have any questions or comments about it?
Did it just say, is it just, you should have seen what was in that cave, or do you know what was in the cave first?
Somebody asked me that when I told this in another place, and I said, "What do you think is in the cave?" Something that a little boy would say, oh, that's all they could talk about. What was there? I've got some okay.
I think that there was candy in the cave because that's what, if there was a bunch of candy in the cave, I'd
A lot of
stop
candy.
talking about it.
Maybe it was the Halloween cave.
Ooh. Maybe there was candy and the boy wanted to eat it, but the man said he couldn't eat it. And he started crying, but it had beautiful wrappers, so he really wanted to eat it, but he couldn't.
Something to eat, okay.
I bet the whole cave was made out of candy.
The candy cave?
But that was hard to
You'd just get sick if you were in there.
There's probably like some sort of magical land in the cave. Some sort of like enchanted forest almost.
Any other thoughts or ideas?
The cave was made of hot dogs.
Why hot dog?
Not everybody likes
Tell me about that.
Yeah, it would just be really yummy. It probably was like already a cave, but they just were
Well, why couldn't
something.
why couldn't the village people find it?
Because all stories because it's magic.